Gilded roofs reaching for the heavens. Walls of imperial crimson, hiding a world of unimaginable luxury. For centuries, the Chinese Imperial Harem was seen as the ultimate paradise, a fantasy world where thousands of the most beautiful women in the empire lived to serve one man, the emperor, the son of heaven. They were draped in silk, adorned with jade, and lived a life of supposed ease and splendor. But behind the perfumed screens and smiling faces lay a dark, suffocating reality. This wasn't a paradise, it was a battlefield. A golden cage where ambition, jealousy, and desperation bred unimaginable cruelty. Today, we peel back the layers of silk and propaganda to uncover the darkest secrets of the Imperial Harem, a world where a single misstep could lead to a fate far worse than death. From the outside, entering the Forbidden City as a chosen woman was the dream of countless families. It meant honor, influence, and a life free from poverty. But the reality was a stark contrast. Once a woman passed through those gates, she rarely, if ever, left. Her life was no longer her own. She was the property of the emperor. Her family might gain favor, but she lost her freedom, her name, and her future. These women, some as young as 13, were cut off from the outside world entirely. They couldn't see their families, communicate with old friends, or even step outside the palace walls without permission. Their lives were dictated by a rigid schedule of rituals, etiquette training, and endless waiting. The vast, beautiful gardens and opulent halls of the Forbidden City were not a home, they were a prison, and its walls were as impenetrable as any fortress. To understand the harem's brutality, you must first understand the scale. We aren't talking about a few dozen women. We're talking about thousands. Emperor Xuanzong of the Tang Dynasty was said to have a harem of 40,000 women. The Forbidden City during the Ming and Qing dynasties regularly housed over 3,000 concubines. With these numbers, the odds of even meeting the emperor, let alone winning his favor, were astronomically slim. A woman could spend her entire life within the palace walls and never once lay eyes on the man she was bound to serve. The emperor was presented with a catalogue of names on jade tablets each night. If her tablet was never chosen, she was doomed to a life of lonely obscurity, a ghost haunting the corridors of power, her youth and beauty fading away in silent desperation. The harem was not a sisterhood, it was a brutally competitive hierarchy. At the very top was the Empress, who Nghu, the official wife and mother of the nation. Below her were various ranks of consorts and concubines, each with its own title, privileges, and stipend. A woman's rank determined everything: the quality of her food, the fabric of her clothes, the number of servants she had, and most importantly, her proximity to power. Moving up this ladder was the only goal. This created an environment of intense, cutthroat rivalry. Women would do anything to gain favor and climb the ranks. Alliances were formed and just as quickly broken. Friendships were a liability. The woman smiling at you one day could be the one poisoning your food the next. This system was designed to keep the women divided and focused on competing with each other, rather than uniting against the system that imprisoned them. In this world of women, the only men allowed were the emperor and the eunuchs. Eunuchs were men who had been castrated, making them safe to serve in the inner court. They were the gatekeepers, the messengers, and the eyes and ears of the palace. They controlled access to the emperor, managed the harem's daily operations, and often held immense power. A powerful eunuch could make or break a concubine's career. They could pass along a favorable word to the emperor, lose a rival's message, or manipulate schedules. This power often led to corruption and cruelty. Some eunuchs, like Wei Zhongxian of the Ming dynasty, became de facto rulers, more powerful than the emperor himself, using their position to extort, torture, and execute anyone who stood in their way. For the women of the harem, befriending a powerful eunuch was a vital survival tactic, while making an enemy of one was a death sentence. In the harem, beauty was a weapon, and the pursuit of it was relentless and often lethal. Women were expected to maintain a flawless appearance at all times. This led to the use of dangerous and toxic cosmetics. To achieve the prized pale complexion, they would apply face powders made with lead and mercury. These heavy metals would slowly poison them, causing nerve damage, organ failure, and madness. They drank teas with crushed pearls, believing it would brighten their skin, risking internal damage. Foot binding, the horrific practice of breaking and binding a young girl's feet to keep them unnaturally small, was considered the height of feminine beauty and eroticism. A pair of 3-inch golden lotuses could secure a woman's place in the harem, but it left her crippled and in constant pain for the rest of her life. The pursuit of beauty was a daily gamble with death. With direct confrontation being too risky, the women of the harem became masters of covert warfare. Sabotage was an art form. A rival might suddenly suffer a miscarriage after consuming a special tonic gifted by a friend. Another might find her favorite silk dress mysteriously ruined just before a meeting with the emperor. Black magic and curses were common, effigies of rivals were pierced with needles and hidden away. Seduction was not just about physical beauty, it was a complex game of psychological manipulation. A concubine needed to be a skilled poet, a talented musician, a graceful dancer, and a brilliant conversationalist. She had to understand the emperor's moods, his political anxieties, and his secret desires, all while appearing effortlessly charming and submissive. She was an artist, a spy, and a psychologist rolled into one, and her stage was the emperor's bedchamber. The single most important goal for any woman in the harem was to give birth to a son. A son, especially the firstborn, was a ticket to ultimate power. A concubine who bore a son would see her status skyrocket, potentially becoming the Empress Dowager if her son ascended the throne. This made pregnancy the most dangerous time in a woman's life. Rivals would stop at nothing to prevent the birth of a potential heir. Accidental falls downstairs, mysterious illnesses, and poisons that could induce miscarriage were terrifyingly common. Infanticide was a dark, unspoken reality. If a rival concubine gave birth to a healthy boy, that child's life was in immediate danger. Nurses could be bribed, and a moment of carelessness could lead to a tragic accident. The cradle was as much a battleground as the throne room. What happened to the thousands of women who never caught the emperor's eye, or who fell out of his favor? Their fate was often bleak. They lived out their days in desolate, remote corners of the forbidden city known as the Cold Palaces. These were essentially prisons within the prison, where unfavored concubines and those being punished were sent to live in isolation and neglect. They received meager rations, wore coarse clothing, and were forgotten by the world. When an emperor died, his childless concubines faced an even grimmer fate. In some early dynasties, they were expected to commit suicide or were buried alive with him to serve him in the afterlife. In later dynasties, they were moved to monasteries to spend the rest of their lives in prayer and celibacy, their existence completely erased from the imperial records. Perhaps no story better illustrates the harem's potential for pure horror than that of Empress Lg, wife of the first Han emperor. After the emperor's death, her jealousy towards his favorite concubine, Lady Qi, exploded into an act of unimaginable cruelty. Empress L had Lady Qi's hands and feet chopped off, her eyes gouged out, her ears deafened with poison, and her vocal cords destroyed, leaving her unable to speak. She then had her thrown into a latrine and mockingly named her the human swine, $RNZH. She even forced her own son, the new emperor, to view the mutilated, writhing form of his father's former lover, an act so monstrous it traumatized him for life. This was the ultimate expression of power and revenge in a system that bred such violent passions. It serves as a chilling reminder that behind the serene poetry and elegant paintings of imperial life, there was a capacity for barbarism that defies belief. The music swells and then fades, leaving a moment of silence. The imagery on screen shifts to modern-day tourists walking through the forbidden city, oblivious to the ghosts of the past. So the next time you see images of the magnificent forbidden city, look past the golden dragons and intricate carvings. Remember the thousands of women who walked these same courtyards. Women who loved, hoped, and dreamed, but who were trapped in a system that turned them against each other. Their stories of silent suffering, quiet resistance, and brutal ambition are written in the very stones of the palace. The imperial harem wasn't a fairy tale, it was a gilded cage with very real, very sharp teeth. What do you think was the most shocking secret of the harem? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey into the dark side of history fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more hidden stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Sharing this video with a friend who loves history helps our channel more than you know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.